Hey friends, it's Mike. It's been a while since I've done a guitar video, and what you see in front of you is a Gretsch 2420 Streamliner, and I picked her up about a week ago. I paid $450, but I got a little bit of a deal. The guitar typically goes for about $499, so 500 bucks. Now, when you read some of the reviews on Amazon, some people are complaining about the guitar staying in tune. But let's first take a look at the body. The fit and finish is very good overall. The F-holes, not as fit and trim as you might expect. You can see where the finish along the F-holes is a little spotty, but it's not a big deal. You can see it there too. Okay, everything else is stock. The knobs, we have the floating tailpiece. I'm going to swap out the bridge in this video. It has the typical Epiphone style tune-o-matic with the wire. It's not one of my favorite bridges because what I have found sometimes is because of that wire, it can cause the string to resonate and you get this buzzing sound, and you can trace it back to the bridge. Now, I don't have the problem with this bridge, so there's no buzzing or resonating or any of that stuff. But again, I'm not a big fan of these bridges, so I'm going to swap it out with a Gotoh bridge today, which is wider, which means it leaves more real estate to move the saddles back and forth for intonation. Now, I should mention that this guitar shipped from Sims Music out of South Carolina, and they did a great job of setting the guitar up. The relief in the neck was perfect. I had to make a slight adjustment to the G string at the 12th fret. It was a little sharp, so I had to move the saddle back just a little bit. The other issue, and this actually is quite common, but a lot of people never check it, is what I refer to as the intonation at the 2nd fret. So what you should do is put your tuner on your headstock and then press down each string. So the first string here at the 2nd fret would be F sharp, second string C sharp, A, E, B, and F sharp. And when you press down and play that string, if you find your tuner going sharp, that means that the slot is not deep enough. That's why when you play some open chords like open A, open E, sometimes you hear a dissonance. And it racks people's brains because they'll be saying, well, when I play bar chords, she sounds in tune. I don't hear that dissonance. It only happens when I'm playing open chords. And that's why it's very important to check the 2nd fret to see if the nut slots are not sitting up too high. If they're sitting up too high and you press down here, here, here across the 2nd fret, you're going to see your tuner go sharp. It's going to go to the right on you. But if you just lower the slots a little bit, it'll move to the 12 o'clock position and you're in tune. And you won't hear that dissonance anymore. Now, you do have to be careful that you don't cut the slots too deep, because then what's going to happen is when the string gets played and it oscillates, it's going to hit the 1st fret and you're going to get buzzing. So if you're not comfortable cutting the slots and measuring the depth, then bring it to a shop and ask them to do that for you. I can't imagine it would cost that much money. Okay, so that's the two things I had to do on the guitar, which was to fix the intonation at the 12th fret for the 3rd string of the G string, which was off ever so slightly. And I also had to fix the slot on the G string so that when I played the A note here, it wasn't going sharp on me. Now, let's talk about the tuning issues. So when I first got the guitar, it came with strings that looked like Diodario's with the colored bald ends of the strings. But there are Chinese companies that make strings that use a very similar, if not the same, color coding on their strings as D'Addario. So when I first got the guitar, I tuned her up with the strings that shipped with the guitar, and she played well, but after playing for a little bit, I found that, yeah, she was falling a little bit out of tune. So the first thing I did was to swap out the strings and put some good quality strings on the guitar. They could be D'Addarios, Ernie Balls, whatever your favorite strings are, and put good strings on your guitar. And as soon as I did that and tuned her up and played, all of the tuning issues went away. All of them. Okay, so if you buy this guitar and you're finding that she's not staying in tune, and you have the stock strings, the strings that ship with the guitar, then swap them out, tune her up, and then see what happens. And also make sure that you stretch your strings out. You have to stretch your strings, otherwise what will happen is they will go flat on you when you're playing. So what I'm going to do now, let me flip her over. I want to show you the neck, which is a Nato wood. Nato wood has the characteristics of mahogany, but it's cheaper. So a lot of the lower priced guitars are utilizing Nato these days. And the fingerboard on this guitar is Laurel, and the body material is laminated maple. And the finish overall is very, very good. All right, so let me flip her over and let me show you the back of the neck. Okay, so here's the back of the guitar. Let me just do a sweep. I don't think my camera and the lighting is doing this justice, but you'll get the idea. Now, here's the Nato wood, which is the neck. And Gretsch tells us it's a thin U neck. You can see it has a scarf joint. Now, some people get concerned about scarf joints, but actually scarf joints, many luthiers will tell you, are a stronger connection than a single piece neck. And that's because the glue itself creates a stronger bond than the wood would have naturally. So if you see a scarf joint, it's nothing to be concerned about. The tuners are not branded, but they work very, very well. They're very fluid. There's no play in them. I didn't experience any issues like that. Okay? All right. So what I'm going to do now is flip the guitar back over, and I'm going to install the Gotoh bridge, and I'm going to show you how I do that. Stay tuned. Before I get going with the bridge, I should also mention that this is not the tip, selector tip, that comes with the guitar. It comes with a black plastic tip. I happen to have an extra Gretsch tip around, and I put it on the guitar. Okay, and let's take a closer look at the pickups. You can see it says Gretsch BT2S, and I will include a link or two to a demo from some other guitar channels. This is just going to be about showing you the guitar and then putting the bridge on. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so here's the Gotoh bridge. And you can see it has no wire. And also it's a wider bridge, so we have more room in which we can move the saddles back and forth for intonation. And you can see the top of the saddles are notched. And that's to get you started when you use your files to slot them. Okay, you do have to slot them, because if you look this way, you can see there is no depth to the slots. And to slot your files, what you want to do is to get yourself a set of files. These are Hoscos, and they are double-edged files. So this side here you can see is 0.17. This would be your G string, and then 0.46 would be your low E. And then we have them, put them in order here. 0.36 would be your fifth string. 13 might be a G string if you're using very, very light gauge for the G, but typically you would use the 0.17. and then 0.26, and this is in inches, by the way. This would be your D string, and then 010 would be your high E and B strings. So we're going to use these files, and these would be the same files, by the way, that you would use to slot your nut. So you can also obviously do the saddles as well. So I'm going to slot the saddles, and when you cut the slots in the saddles, what you want to do is go deep enough so that half the string sits in the slot and the other half of the string obviously does not. You don't want to slot the nut so that the entire string sits in the slot. So let me just take a moment and I will work on the bridge, slotting the saddles, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I slotted the saddles, and you can see now we have the slots, whereas before we didn't have them. Let me get this in focus for you. And when you file the slots, make sure that you use some 600 grit sandpaper and just sand the slots to get rid of any burrs or any sharp pieces of metal that might interfere with the string or break it. Now let's take the Gotoh bridge and put it on the guitar. I should also mention that this is a small pin bridge, just like the bridge that is on the Gretsch. Okay, so let me loosen the strings and I'll be right back. Okay, so some good news. This floating bridge is not actually floating. It's fastened to the body of the guitar, which means it doesn't move. And you see the blue tape because I wasn't sure. And this is a little trick that I do whenever I'm working with a floating bridge, because if it does move, I want to make sure that I put it back where I had it or where the factory set it in order to avoid some of the hassles of resetting the bridge in its proper position and then going through the intonation process again. But because this bridge is fixed to the body, the blue tape is unnecessary. So just a tip in case you get a floating bridge which is not fastened to the guitar. So what I did was I loosened the strings and I'm going to slip the Gotoh on. Also notice that I put some padding underneath the floating tailpiece so that it doesn't fall down on the body and possibly scratch it. Okay, so all I'm going to do is to lift the strings and slip the new bridge on, and once I do that, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so the new bridge is installed, and you can see that it is a much nicer bridge than what was on the guitar. It's of higher quality, it doesn't have the wire, and it has more room in which to push the saddles forward or backward in order to intonate the guitar. And it was a very, very simple install. Just loosen the strings, pull the strings up, put the new bridge on. It's a Gotoh. It cost about 20 bucks or so. I'll leave a link down below. I got it from Philadelphia Luthier. I will also leave a link to some demos where other YouTubers have checked the guitar out and you can listen to how she sounds. I can tell you that even when you play this guitar acoustically, it's a lot of fun. Okay, so that's it for now. You guys take care, and the comment section is open.